Hello, Olga, and thank you for joining Shoes in Bitcoin.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's a huge pleasure having you here today with me. And thank you in advance for dedicating this time because actually last time I have invited you, and the first time and the last time I have invited you to be my guest. Maybe I was not able to first understand so much about your project. It doesn't mean that now I'm completely able to understand it. Uh, and we haven't actually talked about you. And yeah,
Mhm.
once again, thank you for joining. And I would love we to talk about all these things today.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, regarding not understanding what I have been working on and we have been doing, that's totally normal. It's like a lot of it's similar to the situation that is happening with Bitcoin. Like a lot of people that say that they know how Bitcoin works, they know what Bitcoin is, actually um, is it's not a lie, but it's a bit misleading because it's very complicated stuff. And RGB is a more young technology, and all these technological stack that we have been building is a very new technologies. So it's totally fine not to know everything about it, because I also don't know all the technical details. It still takes me a while to just understand every single detail from technological point of view, and then be able to translate it in normal human speaking language, which is like absolutely different task, and it's time consuming. It's pretty hard. So yeah, but I'm here, so you can ask me anything that you would ever want to know.
Thank you very much for this introduction. So basically, that what I see is you're using very actively GitHub. It's
Well,
and
not very actively. Look at
not
that.
very actively.
If
Okay,
it
so
would have been, very actively, you would not see those like black spots.
yeah,
So,
okay, but
but
you're
again,
active.
a lot of
And
my activities, they do not come. They are not committed through GitHub itself. So basically, I'm personally okay with that, because GitHub is basically only one of the resources where I hold my activities, and everything else is not there. So I'm okay with that.
right, okay. So before talking maybe about GitHub, I know that you have mentioned to me that you are a doctor. You're a medical doctor.
Yes.
And I wanted to know more about your journey into Bitcoin and this complicated technology that the fact that you're developing on it,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's making it even more complicated for the not normal people, because we're all normal people. I will make this assumption, but for the people who are not really that technical to understand the complexity of Bitcoin, I assume, and I'm one of those people, I assume it's really hard to understand the rest. But I'm doing my best, and I'm really curious to know how, from
Effort is
amazing and
always
yeah.
appreciated. Yeah. So answering your question, probably briefly. Well, I always say briefly, and it takes me like 15 minutes. So
Please, 15 minutes. Fair enough.
so initially, probably people that think, or that they say that probably like transferring from medicine to IT related stuff and then to Bitcoin and RGB related stuff is hard. They probably never touched such things as genetics, molecular biology, neuroscience, and all that, pathophysiology or physiology, because at some point, if if you think that Bitcoin is hard, try to learn something about genetics or mathematics. So basically, it's a very similar level of complexity and like using abstractions, using like there's a very huge need to absorb a lot of information and to process a lot of information, and it's new. And again, it's like you cannot see, you cannot basically, without any equipment, without no equipment, you cannot see a cell, you cannot see a DNA. So basically, if you are studying as a medical doctor, you need to be able to use these abstractions and to still remember stuff, remember how they work, how they interact, what the outcome is, and all of that. So it's more about the like mindset and an ability, like a skill to always learn new stuff, learn complicated stuff and complex ones, and then be able to just like decompose it into smaller batches. And then, well, yeah, it's like probably it's more about the mindset. And one of the skills that I gained during studying in medical university is actually that the skill to do all that, which currently is very well paying off when we talk about abstract, like mathematical abstractions or cryptographic abstractions and all of that. I'm not saying that I'm like a pro in all those fields, but at least I have the ability, but I'm still developing this to a more profound level, the ability to at least understand and be open-minded and to be enough analytical in order to understand the information related to Bitcoin. How exactly my journey happened is like it's multi-steps, I guess. So it started very simple. I was studying in medical university and I needed money because I had a scholarship, but I understood that the scholarship was like, at that point, I think it was like $2 per month or something, which is like nothing. And I started looking for a job. I understood that working in medicine, like for some particular tasks that I was willing to do, I was not qualified enough, like officially, although I did a lot of different works. But to the things that I was qualified enough, they did not fascinate or interest me at all. I mean, for example, being working in an ambulance and dragging the homeless or drug addict people and trying to bring them to life again, like after some thinking, I understood that that's probably not the activity that I would want to spend my life on, especially like while learning in medical university. It would not bring me anything, and the payment was like almost non-existent for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
where was that? It
was in Ukraine. It was in Kiev. Yeah.
In Kiev. Okay. In Kiev.
Yeah, in the capital. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go for that. For me, working in a pharmacy was also very boring stuff to do, and I think I wasn't qualified enough for that also. But anyway, so I found a job in a simple, like classical IT sector, mm-hmm. in a mobile application development company. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I started working that there, like part-time.
Yeah, I know.
It was pretty cool. So I at least I got to know what IT was at that point.
Yeah.
Then learning through the medical university, I also got very fascinated. Like, I got fascinated by two things, I think. So the first one is the sequence of, like, it's called physiology and pathophysiology, like how all the processes and all the causes and outcomes of how biology works, how human body works. That was the first thing. And the second thing was neuroscience. How
neuroscience. Very interesting topic.
That was the thing that fascinated me a lot. And at some point, working in the IT company, I understood that there's such thing as AI, whatever that is, whatever that was at that point, of course. So I got fascinated about the idea of putting yourself into a digital form, and or maybe not, maybe vice versa, and be able to live forever. That was a very poetic poetic start for me. So at some point, I got, like, people probably call it a career, developed. So from a quality assurance engineer that I started with, I got to being a project manager. Then there was one project finally, which was related to AI development. Well, that basically was a neural network put on military drones that were able to detect people, track them, classify them, and all of that. That was very fun. We used hardware, we worked both with hardware and software. We were testing it, so that was really fun. And I think around that point, it was 2014, 15, I got introduced. In Ukraine, people started talking about this blockchain, Bitcoin, and all of this stuff. So as it was a very new thing, it also was interesting for me. So I started like visiting some meetups, asking people about the technology, blah, blah, blah. And around 2017, me and a couple of my friends and colleagues established a company, which is called Pandora Core. And we basically started developing the, that one. And we basically at that point started developing the concept of artificial intelligence, censorship resistant computations, which can be like very simple ones and can be very high load ones, like what is called AI or deep learning right now. So that's Prometheus computing, which you can see on the website. Yeah, so we started, yes. So we started with the idea of that. And of course, taking into account that the whole idea was built around computations, at that point, we fell for the promise of Ethereum to be a supercomputer for high-load computations, for distributed ones, and all of that. So we built it like testing nodes network, but it didn't fly off simply because Ethereum didn't work, it didn't scale, it didn't have censorship resistance, it didn't have like nothing from the core functionality and core principles that we needed. So eventually we stopped developing on Ethereum, and we were trying to understand which technological layer was there that we could use as a base layer for our purposes. Somewhere around that point, we met one of my colleagues, also founders of the company, Maxim Orlovsky. We were at one of the conferences. I don't remember when it was. So we met Giacomo Zucco, you know him. And Giacomo introduced us the concept of RGB. At that point, it was pretty simple concept. He had been developing it with Peter Todd based on client-side validations.
And Lekos Fellini. I Lekos, he's a very strong developer. And I know that in the past
Alex was the person who tried to build the first prototype of RGB back in the day, but then so basically Giacomo Zucco introduced the concept to us. At that point, the concept was very simple, like tokens over Lightning, full stop, no nothing. But we got into talking about the concept, and we understood that even if you take this very simple use case, seemingly very simple use case of tokens over Lightning, you still have a lot of issues that do not make the technology simple. For example, you need a lot of privacy in this protocol. You need these assets to be very, very programmable. You need to be able to make contracts with other people and be able to prove that you will not get screwed over by the second party and all of that. So while discussing the concept, we saw huge potential even beyond the assets tokens use case in RGB. And we saw that potentially this can be the technology that we would need and we would be able to use for our own purposes for our initial project's idea. So since 2019, I think, yeah, since 2019, I got involved into the development of RGB. And first actually Maxime joined the team and he started designing, him with Peter Todd, with Giacomo Zucco, they started designing the protocol. And in order to develop all this, the association, the nonprofit association was established in Switzerland. It's called the LNPBP Standards Association. I think you also have it opened. Yeah, that one. So basically we understood at some point that what we're doing is so multifunctional and is so not only related to the assets or finance world, that it like evolved into a whole initiative, into a whole new non-profit that was and is leading right now and overseeing the development of layer 2 and 3 technologies on top of Bitcoin. So basically LNPBP stands for Lightning Network Protocol / Bitcoin Protocol. It's like the, I think it's the concept that was again introduced on Twitter by Giacomo Zucco, like how to properly say the short version of Lightning Network Protocol and Bitcoin one. So we took it, so LNPBP is basically a tech stack, but we took it as a flag of the nonprofit also because it was pretty good choice. So currently, me personally and my company Pandora Core, we are heavily involved in the development. Where basically we're sponsoring the development right now. As Pandora Core, we're creating technologies and donating it to the association. Like we are opening the codes and all that. Me personally, I deal with community management, so-called education materials like RGB FAQ, for example. Maxine is doing a lot of coding and designing and testing itself. And as a company, as a profit company, Pandora Core, we, I think it happened like a couple of months back, well, like half year ago, we started building our own products on top of RGB to first and foremost to show that RGB is viable and it's working already, because a lot of people still think that it's just an idea or a proposal or something like that. And we started building products to show that that's not completely correct and you can already start playing around with RGB as a technology. And second of all, well, maybe it is probably the first of all, we are as a team very hardcore capitalists. So we do not stand for like building something huge and then giving it up for free for everyone else to use it, make money of it, like build their reputations or like do whatever they want with what we did. That is not our approach. And as hardcore capitalists, we understand that if we have an advantage, we are about to use it. If we build the first products, which is happening, for example, then we would leverage that in order to bring people the tools and of course to make some profits out of that. And by setting our case as an example of how you can monetize the whole new technological stack. So
okay, so Thank you for all these clarifications. So basically, I cannot understand many differences, most probably from the way a token is being created technically and the steps that must be performed from technical perspective to have a token. But here I see some.
Currently the yeah, RGB currently is not a token protocol, as you can see there. So
because you started talking about tokens, I'm really sorry for the confusion.
No worries. So this is, I didn't mention that actually. So from the idea of issuing the tokens and having the tokens based on Lightning Network or running on Lightning Network, RGB eventually, with our help, evolved into a huge smart contract system with confidentiality, with high level of privacy, with high level of unconfiscability, untraceability, and all of that. So basically, while the issuing assets, and also we're trying to avoid the word token, because it has very bad connotations.
I don't know where I have read it. Oh, sorry, maybe you haven't just shared with.
Well, a lot of people, even here on the website, I need to go through it. People always use the word token, but I'm trying to educate them not to use this word, simply because it can twist the mindset a bit.
What's the appropriate word that must be used?
Assets, because so
here it's RGB is not an asset protocol.
No. Here it's right, because saying the word token overall is not completely correct. And B, people do say that RGB is a token protocol, which is incorrect. So here I'm pointing out the whole mistake. I'm saying that it's not a token protocol, because it's not only about tokens, because it's also about different types of assets, like bearer rights, company shares, like digital identities, and NFT art.
Kind of digital representation of value, variety of values have.
You can put it like that.
That have physical and not only physical representation in the real world, in the material world, something like that.
Yeah. So basically, it's RGB is a smart contract system for Bitcoin and Lightning Network. It's and the shares and the financial world, the assets and all of that is only one small part of all the use cases that RGB can actually cover and help bring solutions to.
Okay, and what about Ethereum, EOS, and others? So, you mean it's not Bitcoin only? I really thought it's Bitcoin only, this project.
Yeah, this is Bitcoin only project, because it uses Bitcoin as a base layer, as a commitment layer. I mean, in theory, it can use different mediums as a commitment layer, but currently we're working we're working on Bitcoin, also because a lot of people, they asked us if RGB can work on Litecoin or Bcash or somewhere else. In theory, that's possible, but we're not interested in doing that. We're not interested in bringing RGB to Litecoin or Bcash or anywhere else. So basically, if someone wants it, they can make their own implementation of RGB and put it on a different base layer blockchain, but we're not going to do that. Compared to Ethereum, EOS, and other things, if you go to the FAQ part, there's the FAQ from the on the right. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you click on it,
yeah,
you can see that there is you can have, you already have a couple of different questions that I tried to cover.
Okay.
So there is RGB and alternatives one. And in this RGB versus alternative ones, you can see comparisons with a lot of things that they're present now: Ethereum, Liquid, colored coins, EOS, Omnivault. Yeah.
Okay. You know, I have had several webinars about Liquid. Liquid sidechain. And basically, it is maybe something similar from concept standpoint. I mean, the output is similar to that. So we have, but the biggest thing is that I would say, I don't know whether it's a difference. So when you're saying it's only on Bitcoin, it means we cannot have RGB assets on other blockchains. Is that what you're referring to? Because Liquid is Bitcoin only.
Well, in theory, you can. If you go up a bit, there is the first comparison is between RGB and Liquid, actually. Well, Liquid component.
Okay.
Yeah.
Works with Lightning Network, replaces large borrow-mean signatures. What is borrow-mean signatures?
It's like the whole sentence is like zero knowledge proof stuff. Cryptography magic.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are signatures that are pretty heavyweight.
Okay.
Like they consist of a lot of data, and you always need to pass a lot of data and store a lot of data. So we got rid of that, and we replaced the Borrow-mean signatures with more compact bulletproof ones. So yeah.
This is like to make it faster, you mean?
To make it faster, not to pollute the blockchain, not to make every single person store, like hell knows how much information and all that.
Because on Liquid, I know it's every minute, it's kind of, there is a block. But you have mentioned to me also that there are no blocks on RGB, or am I wrong?
There are no blocks in RGB because RGB is not a blockchain. It's not even a side chain.
Okay. And what is it?
It's a partial state smart contract system. So from topographical mathematical point of view, RGB is a DAG, direct acyclic graph. If you can Google it, I think I'll need to add it somewhere. Oh yeah, it's a form of a DAG where you don't have the data on a complete state of the network ever. So you don't have blocks. You don't need to store the complete like consensus of the network on your machine. You don't need to have this. There's no global state in RGB, because in RGB, basically, you have a lot of different smart contracts, and you can Google the DAG right now. Maybe it could help you visualize what a DAG is and how it's different from a blockchain. So in RGB, you have only.
Could you repeat that, please? I would love to Google it.
DAG, D-A-G. A, DAG. Yeah. Yep.
Department.
Direct mathematics.
Okay.
No, not that one. Yeah, directed at cyclic graph. The first link.
Directed cyclic graph. Okay. This is really math. I was not good at math, and now I'm paying the price for it. Okay, A, B, C, D, C.
So you
No.
can see for the first word at that picture, you can see the first word directed. You can see the arrows, and they always go in one direction, which is why this thing in mathematics is called directed. Acyclic means that it does not have a loop, so it cannot like create cycles of it. And well, it's a graph. It's not a chain. It's not, you can see it's like a tree. It's not not a sequence, not a chain, it's not a network even. So
More or
yeah.
less, this is the logic that RGB is using.
This is how you can, on a very high level, imagine how RGB works, and how, like, when you have a couple of participants and smart contracts, how exactly you can put them on the map and understand where the information flow, the data flow, and all of that.
Okay.
So when you say about transactions in Bitcoin or in blockchain, for example, you have a block, you have transactions that come into this block, they get mined, then boom, another block, and the same stuff. And DAG works in a completely different way. So yeah, this is why RGB is not a blockchain. It's a totally different mathematical thing.
Okay, I think that I definitely will not ever understand RGB.
We have you can go on YouTube, because there we have, so as a part of education materials, we have, first and foremost, every week we have developer calls, and we answer all, like, we have a small Q&A session every time. So if you have any questions, you can ask them. And also, as a part of the education, you can, if you go down the RGBFAQ website, you would be able to see the developer call section. Yes. If you click at that, you could see the agendas of the call. I still need to add historical calls to that, but it's not that important, because most important is what's happening right now. So you can see all the links. You can see that if we have a presentation or if we have a demonstration of something, we also always record the YouTube video, and we have a YouTube channel for that. So if you need some visualization or something, you can either go to the presentation repository that we have, or you can go on YouTube and just listen to the YouTube video with the presentation, with slides, and all that.
Everything. And this is a very huge database. So basically, if you are the owner of this knowledge base and information, I assume you have lots of things to do here.
Well, yeah. Well, this code is also present on GitHub. So basically, if you want to add something to the website, you can create a pull request on GitHub, suggest the...
No, I don't want to create any pull request. Me personally, for sure. Only for shoes in Bitcoin for now. The target one day could be to make a pull request on Bitcoin Core and to be rejected. But so you're saying that here there are two people who are contributors, Dr. Maxim Murlovsky and Olga.
Yeah. That's the founder of Oracle, and he's also, basically
because he's a doctor. His title is a doctor.
Yes.
I assume doctor in technology.
He's a doctor. He's a medical doctor. He's a neuroscientist, and he has a PhD in neuroscience. I don't. So, Maxim is basically the person who designed RGB with the help of others, of course. And he basically wrote, as of today, like 98% of the working code, probably. So,
okay. And you have shared with me that you're at the point when you're developing, I mean, real products that can be used. Right now, Is this the MyCitadel project?
So the first three ones are already released. We will be updating them with time, but it's there. So yeah, the first one is MyCitadel, which is a wallet. It's a mobile wallet, and basically it can be used in various different forms. You can embed it into an exchange. You can use it as a mobile wallet. I mean, you can already now download it from test flight. I think I have it somewhere. Yeah, you can download it from test flight on iOS. Right now we have only iOS version, so you can already download it and play around with it. Yes, here you can see the libraries and all the repositories that we have. So if you want to look at the code, you have all of it opened.
Mm-hmm. And so a person who enters GitHub and generally starts reading, and first he's technical, he understands Bitcoin Core, not like me. And that person, if he joins your library, this one.
You mean the organization?
Okay. Yeah, so the organization, when this is the proper wording. What can this person achieve? I mean, just get to introduce to RGB or start working on RGB? And start contributing.
They can do everything. I mean, there is the first repository that you see not pinned is the FAQ, is the repository from the FAQ website. So if someone goes there, you can see the same FAQ repository, but in a form of GitHub text files and all of that.
Okay, Olga.
And you also can you can contribute with the code. You can see the documentation there. You can see the links. So yeah,
everything that you and you are taking care of this knowledge base. You're constantly updating this information with each and every development, and you are also I am taking over the community management role on Telegram and organizing the weekly calls with the updates. So
yeah, I'm organizing the weekly calls. We even had in 2019 we had a non-conference in Milan in December. I was organizing that. Also, we had a lot of very nice guys joining us. We had Fuldo Ventures joining us. We had Reza, guy from Bitfinex, one of the Bitfinex developers, joining us from Australia, which is like very far away. We had Rene Picard, which knows a lot about Lightning. He has been working on it for many years. So we had probably like 20 people there or so. So yeah, it was 3 days event. We have all the slides uploaded online from that point. We have all the YouTube videos from that non-conference uploaded also. So if someone wants to catch up with the 2 years old data, they can still do it. It would, not sure if it would make sense, but it's still pretty good.
No, I have understood that actually this project has been through many changes. So I assume it's really, first it won't make much sense in case only if someone is interested to know about some history and how the things have started.
Well, the history, how the things got started, and still a lot of very basic things are being answered there, and a lot of very basic stuff never changed. Like there we talked about what client-side validation is, what cryptographic primitives are used in RGB or are planned to be used. We actually discussed made many decisions during those 3 days which affected the whole RGB development. So yeah, it was really cool. And still, I think that if someone wants to get to know RGB, it's still a very good resource to go there. Among all other videos, of course, that we also have on the YouTube channel.
Great, thank you, Olga. And let's forget about RGB for a while and focus on you. I see something very interesting is a detail for you. You have associated yourself, if in Twitter, because in Twitter everybody, let's say, maybe chooses kind of a hero, or we are not. That's what we are actually on social media. So we're much more complex than that, and we have to be happy for that, I think. But I see that you are identifying yourself as a brutal artificial intelligence Frankenstein.
Well, it's not. I mean, it all started with a joke. Like we were, I think it was Baltic Innovator, the conference, 2 years back, maybe more. And there was one guy who, like, we got into talking. There was a huge group of people, and we got into talking. And he said that I'm very brutal, and that he wasn't sure if I was a real person or I was an artificial intelligent like agent, and he said that probably like I'm a Frankenstein because I don't behave like normal people, like living beings. And yeah, so that was fun, and I remembered it, so thank you. And since then, I started using it as like a partially official representation of myself.
All right. No, it's also most probably of your character. So you're, I would say, sometimes from that what I've managed to have these conversations with you, you're just tends to be you just tend to be sometimes sarcastic, looking at the reality and maybe not liking it that much and protesting about it, and you have very strong affirmations and perception of who you are, which is great, and you're defending yourself, which is another great thing. um, so Frankenstein is just when I meet Olga right now and talking to Olga and hear this photo, I don't associate with Olga. And you know, but I want to tell you something. I was Batman. I'm still Batman on Twitter and on demand when I want to be Batman. The other thing is I was for a while Cruella de Val. So I think this is also, I know stories and I see people on Twitter that yeah, they're just pretending to be someone else. But my experience, by the way, with Twitter is very, very small. Also, like with GitHub, I have joined Twitter for Bitcoin, and I was very, and I'm still sometimes confused, you know, to identify what's relevant versus what's irrelevant. You need to have a very strong filter in order to not get impacted emotionally.
Well, there is a lot of different things happening in Twitter, indeed. But yeah, as you said, not all of that. There's a lot of noise, also like random noise, constantly being there. So yeah, everyone just decides for themselves what they want to listen to, who they want to read, to interact with, and everything.
Right. No, it's quite a funny place. So everybody who is interested maybe to know more about you can find you on Twitter and just ping you. So I see you have enabled your.
Feel free.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And so you've been right now. You're in Zug, Switzerland. You are
Yes,
mainly
yes, I'm here.
you are mainly in Switzerland. Are you traveling right now, or?
Well, taking into account all this COVID hysteria,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not really traveling outside Switzerland.
Neither I am. So I do completely understand. However, there are some people who are traveling a lot, and yeah, but and you have said this COVID, this situation with the pandemic. You as a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
as a real doctor, who is first doctor and then Bitcoiner. What do you think about COVID-19? This is the first time I ask this question in shoes in Bitcoin, or maybe no, I don't remember. But I personally have experienced this pandemic in a very brutal Frankenstein way, um, and I don't like it. I don't like it, and everything that's happening, I don't like in general. So, what would you advise me? Shall I get vaccinated or not?
Well, you touched a lot of different questions here. So first, there is no pandemic because there used to be before the World Health Organization rewrote the description. There is a very specific understanding and definition of what a word pandemic means. Like plague was a pandemic, where in Europe, like only 25% of people survived. That was a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Because pandemic has the word pandemic in medical terms, it has very strict parameters that any infection or any biological agent or disease need to reach. I mean, taking into account everything that's going on right now with COVID, it's very far from the pandemic, and the numbers that we have, they are not. I mean, it's very far from being called even an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much worse than any influenza cases that we already faced. So for me, all that is happening has actually nothing to do, and it started with having nothing in common with biology or infections or viruses or diseases or whatsoever. So everything that's happening right now has nothing to do with biology. And all of this is just, I don't know, common hallucination and people being scared and frightened.
Yeah.
And all of this is just a hysteria, and all of this is being used just to take away the freedoms that that people at least used to have or potentially could have in the future. So basically, it's all just a political tool and enforcement one. So it has nothing to do with biology. How to
How to verify
advising
this? I can only
advising.
make. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Please go ahead.
No, no worries. I was just about to say, like, I'm not planning to vaccinate myself whatsoever. Because I mean, I know how the vaccines are being built. I know what mRNA is. I mean, from biological perspectives, that there is no such thing as, they didn't even specify which virus causes which types of troubles. And also the coronavirus as a family, they mutate so fast and so differently that it's useless to make any vaccines against them, because you will never know which type of it you have. You will never know how to maintain it. You will never know how it will mutate in the future. If you were very well off with the first type, then something happens and the virus mutates in 3 weeks, and then you have another one. So what, you're gonna create vaccines every 3 weeks? That's not how vaccine creation process is happening. That's not how science works. That's not how the vaccine production works. So it's just the whole thing is so ridiculous and so useless that, I mean, no, vaccination actually can bring more damage than good, because herd immunity, which is identified right now as described as a very different thing by World Health Organization, because they rewrote it again. The herd immunity is not caused by vaccines. Herd immunity is the consequence of people having the disease and being cured from the disease. So basically, you cannot achieve herd immunity just by vaccinating everyone. It's not how biology works. Absolutely not. So vaccines are useless. More than that, even a lot of medications that are currently used against this terrible, terrible infection are absolutely useless. Like, for example, like vitamin D. Like, come on, how can, like, vitamin D cannot eliminate the cause of the infection, because the cause of the infection and the cause of the disease is a virus. Like, with the same result, you could just drink chamomile tea and say that you're being cured from COVID, because it's absolutely exactly the same. Or on another note, you have this, I forgot what's the name of that drug. So basically, it's anti-parasitic drug against worms that you can have from the meat, or yeah. And again, but those pills are actually, they're still useless because they are not the antivirus stuff. I mean, they're still not doing anything to the cause of the disease. And B, on itself, this type of pills is very toxic to the body. So basically, if you start consuming those types of those types of pills, you are harming yourself more than you are bringing yourself good. So it's just every single step, if you look at it, is absolutely so ridiculous. And right now, you already can see the cargo cult being developed from everything that happened, because right now it's this whole shit show turned into physical enforcement that comes from the military, from the government officials, from the society itself over one individual. Because right now, no one even cares about, like, even if it comes to masks, it doesn't even matter that masks were never working for this type of stuff. They're absolutely useless from day one. But even now, when you face someone screaming at you for not wearing a mask, and you say that even if someone is vaccinated or something, and or if you say that you're a medical doctor and you know that, like, it's useless and all of that, people start pointing fingers at you and forcing you out, simply not because they're afraid of the virus, or they're afraid to die, or they're afraid to get the disease. They're afraid of fines. They're afraid to go to jail. They're afraid of the enforcement. And people do not understand. They have such short memory that they forgot that it all started from a very, very scary, which is not virus. So now it's all about enforcement. It's all about force and snitching and all of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. But I do still, so there are people who are intelligent enough to read the right sources, to not to trust but to verify all this information, to listen to the right people who have the expertise to assess all these things. Because the most ridiculous thing is that it's a fear game. It's a fear game, and it's a fear game with our dearest. which is our health.
It's like people all of a sudden remember that they are mortals and that people die. Newsflash, it never happened before, and boom, COVID brought death upon us. People always die. That has always been the case, and it will always be the case.
Right.
And there's no need to be hysterical about it. It's just fact. I mean, life is a genetical disease. Life is actually a genetical disease, which is 100% lethal every single time. Everyone dies, full stop. Like, why? It has always been that way. Why do all of a sudden be so like frightened about it? Like, come on, if COVID will not, if the complications of the like any infection would not kill you, then a car accident can kill you, or whatever else. Lightning.
Lightning can kill you. That's for
you can drown. Like, there are thousands of different ways of how you could die, but all of a sudden everyone is afraid of whatever media is saying. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I love this concept. Doesn't matter, it sounds too Frankenstein and brutal. However, this is the reality. We have to face it, and we have to keep it positive. Okay, Olga, I really liked very, very much. I have enjoyed this conversation with you, and I appreciate your time.
Same here. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for your time also. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.